Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hey, I'm so excited to introduce my next guest on the Into the LightWeb podcast in the $1 Million Lab series. With me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter. This next woman is absolutely extraordinary, and it isn't many times where I come across someone who really pushes the bar in the infinite possibilities as much as this person has. It is absolutely incredible. So I know that if you're part of the $1 Million experiment, we are all creating $1 million in 1 year. Well, this woman does $1 million months. I am introducing you to the gorgeous Melanie Ann Layer. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here from joannahunter.com, and we are in another episode of the Into the LightWeb podcast in the $1 Million Lab series. So, never mind $1 million in 1 year. This woman that I am interviewing today blows me away. She does $1 million months. Yeah. Melanie Ann Layer. I am so excited for this interview because this woman is extraordinary. Come and say hi, Melanie.
Oh my gosh, what an introduction. Joanna, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I love your series. I love what you're doing, and I'm just very grateful to be here with you right now.
Awesome. So we're gonna have a really, I can feel this is gonna be juicy. So tell people a little bit about your company and your brand and what you do at the moment, because obviously we'd like to go back through the sands of time as well, but what's it all about at the moment for Melanie Ann Layer?
So right now, my company is called Alpha Femme, and it's about the woman who leads herself, the woman who's capable of taking radical self-responsibility in her life for all things and really just move forward in all areas that matter to her. And my programs that I offer have a very wide range, from personal empowerment to money to business to leadership to social media and sales. So it really ranges. There's a large span of knowledge, but what's beautiful is it always gets brought back to this personal power concept and how we lead ourselves through it at every step of the way. So these concepts I embody in my life, and I walk with my clients to hold that calibration portal so they always are reminded of what's possible for them. And we raise the bar collectively over and over again every day.
I love that it's all about leading yourself, because that's a big premise in the $1 Million experiment, is to lead yourself. It's a self-led experiment. We give you the mindset, we give you intuition, we give them what I have nicknamed the millionaire marinade with all these extraordinary people on our podcast and everything. But the whole idea is that we lead ourselves through the process, because I really think that if you need to be handheld through the process, then the minute that hand isn't there anymore to lead you or hold you, you can't do it for yourself. And it's all about being able to be the one that can do it for themselves, which I think is so important. And I love that is literally the center ethos of your brand, because it's we can see why Melanie makes $1 million months, because it's not a case of it's not a surprise if we're leading ourselves, right, from
Exactly.
these things. But that wasn't always the case. So
No.
take us back through the sands of time of right back. I know you're probably tired of telling this story because it's so not your life now, but tell us a little bit about where you're at.
So I think the reason I'm so passionate about this work now is because I really saw what it looks like without it. I saw what my life looks like without this. And it's just the saddest thing.
Yeah.
It's like we walk with potential every day of our lives, of what life could be, this never-ending field of potential. But at the end of the day, we're going to create what we call in. And when we call in what we believe is possible for us and what we believe is available to us. And my journey begins in a place where I believed that nothing was available for me. I believed I was never going to find love. I believed that I'd wrecked my only chance at a relationship, and it was the worst relationship, but I regretted leaving it, even though I hated it. I thought my family was disconnected from me and I'd never have a family that worked. I thought I didn't know what I was going to be when I grew up. I didn't finish high school. I figured I'd never have a career that meant anything. I figured I'd never have money. I figured I'd struggle my whole life. I figured I'd never travel. I figured I'd never have real friends. I figured the things I thought about my life were awful, and they led me to a life that was the exact evidence of everything I thought and feared. I led myself right to what I believed was possible for me. And at the worst of it, I'd broken up with this guy. I had been with him for 7 years on and off, knowing it was the wrong guy, not having the power to leave. He cheated, he lied, he'd done everything. I couldn't leave. And when I finally left him, he fired me from my job because I'd helped him become the manager at my job. He fired me. I had to work 200 kilometers outside of my hometown, ran out of money, couldn't pay for the hotel room, ended up having to sleep rough in my car, at odds with my family, didn't feel like I could talk to them. I'd go so long without speaking to them, even when I was with this guy, because they didn't think I should be with him, and fighting about that. And so when everything went rough, I didn't feel like I could say anything. So I just kept it all to myself, sleeping in my car, no food, freezing cold in the wintertime, living off just enough gas to not freeze to death. And my whole life just crumbled. And I got to be right about everything. That I was alone, that nobody cared about me, that I sucked, that I was worthless, that I had no money, that my life was going to be garbage. Like, I got to be right about all of it. And in that moment, it was like everybody else's fault, because one of the things about me that I did, even though I believed I was worthy of nothing, is I wanted to be the good girl. I wanted to be nice. So I did things to please everybody, and it never really gave me what I wanted. So I was always feeling bitter, resentful, and overgiving all at the same time. It was just poison. My life was just, it was mediocre at best and just terrible at its worst. And that's where the journey starts.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's incredible because I resonate with so much of this. I mean, I have a slightly different story. I built between the age of 23 and 26. It sounds wonderful, but I built 4 six-figure companies, and then I worked in the mall. But I had every story that you had, right? And then I had the evidence. So although there was lots of money coming in, I never got to keep any of it. And I was always like, it was like, I always paid the bills by the skin of my teeth. It was always this like kind of total lack cycle. And I remember, you know, the first sort of contact that I had with in getting out of that was like law of attraction, and realizing that, you know, and it was that kind of punch to the stomach when you first get to the law of attraction of like, you have done it all to yourself because your predominant thoughts are now actually your life. And I remember taking that not very well. And being very upset with the law of attraction, but here I am 15 years later teaching it. But I find that, you know, it is that predominant thoughts, and it sounds to me that you were deep in those predominant thoughts, deep in that victim vibes, deep in those stories, and the people pleaser. Oh, I know her well. She was running rampant. So how do we flip the switch on all this, Melanie, into the life that you're living now, which is like night and day?
I know it, but honestly, it was like perfect timing, and mixed with radical responsibility, mixed with, I don't know, like I just remember what actually started all this. And I am always so embarrassed to say this because this is my least proud moment of my whole life. But I was sleeping in the car, so I'm sitting in the front seat of the car, and I'm thinking of this ex-boyfriend who's now got a new girlfriend, and she works in the company, and I'm hearing things. I am experiencing so much anger towards this whole situation. I had a HTC Touch, like one of the first smartphones that was out there. And I Googled on my smartphone, how to make your ex-boyfriend cry. Not how to make him miss you, not how to get him back, not how to make him jealous, how to make him cry. And when I think of like what kind of vindictive, awful mindset I must have been in to even type those words out. But what was crazy is what I Googled, like what showed up in the search bar was like, how to have the relationship you want, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I just sat there in my car completely embarrassed with myself. Like, even nobody Googles this stuff. Like, what is wrong with me? What am I doing? And I started reading about like relationships and started going down this rabbit hole of like, now then I found Tony Robbins, but I found Jerry and Esther Hicks, and they were talking about the emotional tone scale. And they talk a lot about the law of attraction. They were talking about how gratitude is the way. And I was so mad at that. I was so insulted by that. I was like, oh, that is very easy for the happy, privileged people of the world that have a bed to sleep in and enough money to buy groceries and who have a support system. What does that do for people like me who have no money, who are sleeping in their car, who are starving, exhausted? Like, this law does not apply to me. Like, I'm outside of the law. So this law is not a kind law. It's a law that only works for people who have something to be grateful for. I was very resentful of the whole concept because it felt like until or unless you had something you could be grateful for, this law wouldn't work for you. And it hit me like a ton of bricks one day. I was just sitting in my car and I had the sunroof was open. So the window was closed, but I could see through the window in the roof of the car. And I was kind of leaned back in the front seat and it started to snow, really big snowflakes. In Quebec, sometimes it snows. There's a really kind of snowflake that's like a big, fat snowflake. And I kind of went in the moon watching the snowfall, and I caught a snowflake in my eye really, really high up in the sky. And I watched it dance all the way to the sunroof, and it kind of landed there. And I just had this moment, and I can't explain it. I can't explain why or how it happened, but I just felt like crying of joy about the snowflake. And it was like, I would not be able to see this any other way. I wouldn't have seen the snowflake. I wouldn't be able to see it like this any other way. It was the weirdest feeling, but I was overcome with gratitude. And it was like this warm feeling in my body. It almost felt like a deja vu. It felt like all kinds of weird feelings in my body. And I got gratitude on a non-superficial level for the first time in my whole life. Because for me, gratitude was, I'm grateful for what I have.
Yeah.
Not just I'm grateful. Yeah. And when I got, I'm grateful. When I got I'm grateful just because I can see the beauty no matter what, it really changed me. And it changed the way I started to see life. And I started being a person who looks for the beauty. And it became one of my things in life. Like, even if you follow me on social media, if you look at my Instagram social media account, like, gorgeous. I bring beauty. Melanie. I bring beauty everywhere. I see beauty in all things. I create beauty. It's one thing that stuck with me from that moment, is like, find beauty in all things and you will always have something to be grateful for.
Oh, I love that. That is such a powerful moment. I remember so I went down a slightly different route. I didn't have that epiphany moment. I went down, I'm going to write a gratitude journal. And I considered myself at that time in my life that I was like a super positive person. So I got this, so I'm saying 2 hours later, tears of frustration coming down my face. I had to write 10 gratitudes. I'd got 8. Number 9 eluded me. Number 10 eluded me. I was so frustrated. I was like, and when I look back at that list, I'm so embarrassed because like every single gratitude I listed was like something like, it was like, I can be grateful for my house. So I wrote that I was grateful for the view from my house, right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't even be grateful for nothing was actually what I had. It was like the view, or everything had like a big but with it. And that was my moment that I was like, you got to get this sorted. This is not this is not the life that you signed up for. This is, we've got to start to see things that are better for us. And, and so I let myself off the hook with the number 9 and number 10. But the next day I went right back. And I also let myself off the hook if I repeated myself from day to day, and just began really creating a gratitude practice. But what I discovered was that it worked better when I went smaller. Like, I started to think about, what would it be like to go and get water from the well? Like, how much would that suck, right? And so I was like, I got water in my taps, like, this is living, right? And then I was like, I had little kids at the time, so I was like, how much would it be suck, like if I had one of those washboard things, right? And like, I had to like do it by hand. I've got this washing machine, so I was like, oh my God, so like my household appliances would make me feel like I was like queen of the effing world. I was like, oh my God, I'm winning, you know? And that
That's
was how
awesome.
the beginning of my sort of gratitude practice. But I realized, you know, there's so many things every moment of every day that you can be fully present for, which is so powerful. So we the gratitude part for you clicks. How do we move out of this car? I need you to move out of the car. You're giving me anxiety living in this car. My mother is coming out and being like, I have got to give Melanie a home right now.
You're so cool. Okay, so here's what happened. I started seeing beauty even in living in the car. And I realized I could drive to wherever I wanted, because what started happening then is I I was still allowed to work in the company that I was in. He had fired me from like the district, but I was still allowed to work in the company. So a couple of different things happened. First of all, somewhere in that, a few months in, I started taking life coaching clients, teaching women how to really take their power back and leave relationships that weren't right for them, or communicate effectively in the relationships that they had. So that came with months of working through my own stuff and realizing who I had been. A friend had called me out of nowhere, had asked me for support, and I had helped her. And she was like, "You are excellent at this. You need to be a coach." I didn't even know what a coach was at the time. She was like, "You need to be a coach." And I was like, "I can't. I'm sleeping in my car." Like there's just, I didn't tell her that, but I was just like, I can't. She started talking about me to her friends, and her friends wanted to hire me. And she was like, "I have people that want to pay you. Just tell me how much you would charge." I was like, "Oh my God." And I had this one session with a spiritual healer that had been a disaster in my mind at the time. And I had paid that woman $100 that I did not have for that session. And I was like, if I could pay her that, anybody can pay that. So I said, it's $100. And I gave that woman a 20% commission. She started referring people to me. I started making money that way. So then I could put gas in the car. And at first I would stay in motels, but the motels were like $30, $40 a night, like $38 a night was the price for most motels.
Mhm.
And I just remember feeling just as unsafe in the motel as I did in the car. So what I started doing is just sleeping in the car until I had enough to like sleep one night in a nice hotel. And then I would like have a nice shower or a beautiful bath. And, you know, they would have coffee included or breakfast included. And I would have that experience and be so grateful for the experience, even if it meant one night in a hotel and 6 nights in the car. I preferred that to 6 nights in a motel. The motel just didn't do it for me. So I would sleep in the car and then sometimes in hotels. And I was doing okay at the other job, but the company was going belly up and they kept missing our payments. So I was expecting a paycheck on a Thursday. The paycheck would never come. One time they were 3 weeks late on our paycheck. So it was just everything that was happening was just worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And one day my friend who had moved to Toronto, who was then the manager in Toronto, had called me and was like, "We need people to come learn a new product over here. Do you want to come?" And they were going to pay my gas. And while I was there, they were going to pay for my accommodation. It was like a dream come true for my situation. I was like, yes, I'm coming. But then just a few minutes outside of Toronto, she was like, by the way, the person who's training you is this man that I really didn't get along with. He was the manager for all of Canada before. And I had met him and we really did not get along. I was in a very masculine energy and very bossy. And to him, I was this 22-year-old or something. He was like 33. So we clashed a lot. I was not looking forward to seeing him. I was trying to work through so many energetic things with so much in my life, and I just didn't want the turmoil. And I knew he didn't like me. I didn't like him. So I was very nervous about the whole thing. But when I went to go in to this corporate condo, because when I found out the accommodation was a corporate condo, which means not only was I going to be working with this man, I was also going to be staying in the same corporate condo as him. Okay. I put my hand on the door to walk in, and I just decided in that moment I was going to embody the new way that I'd been learning and that I'd been teaching, the personal power, the self-responsibility, the energy, and it completely changed the vibe between us. And I actually started to get to know this person, and, you know, he got to know me, and eventually, you know, the weirdness dissipated. I think within 3 days we were making out on the couch and he is now my fiance 8 years later. So, you know, that all happened. But that really changed my life, having that opportunity. And then more and more clients started to come into my life, more and more and more and more. So I was able to travel. So I actually never got another house after that. I started being a digital nomad. I lived in hotels. Sometimes I slept in my car if that's what was needed. But I started traveling the world. And eventually Kevin started traveling with me. but we had the money to at least travel together in places where we'd stay in hotels and things like that. And we started traveling the world, and my business got bigger and bigger and bigger. And we've actually only just bought a house in 2020 because of COVID. For the first time, I'd been a digital nomad I basically went from sleeping in my car, and the next house I ever bought was a multi-million-dollar house on an island that I bought.
So it's like extraordinary, isn't it? I just kind of joined you on social media just as you were buying that house, and you know, I saw you so excited on your island and everything, your island house, and I was like, oh my God, this is just nuts, you know. And it was so lovely to see your your excitement, and just to see the vibes of that, and to share that moment with you. And you know, and I could really see, you know, the gratitude that you embodied as you were creating, you know, like you had, I think there's this moment where you get in your life and in your journey, and as you move along in your journey, that where you realize that is really under your own steam, you know, like that if you had not done the things that if your earlier self did not have the courage, was not brave enough to do the things, if your earlier self had been slightly less immature, like slightly more immature, she wouldn't have grabbed that handle of that door, and she would have walked through and be like shot from the hip, and the two of you would have been at each other's throats by day 3. But it was just that little piece. And when you start to understand that, you know, it is you that is affecting your life, you know, like it's really pants when it's you that's affecting your life and you're looking at the outer world and it's not great. But when you make that shift and you start to realize I don't want to use the word pride, because it's more than that. It's this deep, heartfelt gratitude of yourself, of what you've been able to achieve, and the investment that you've made in yourself, which I think is so important, because in the early days I had no money to invest whatsoever, so especially in this online business journey. So but I did have my time and I did have my energy to invest, which I did wisely. You know, at one stage I stopped watching television because I thought, you know what, my time is better used for investing in my future, which, you know, maybe resulted in reading or watching YouTube or doing something or signing up for a webinar. There's so much great content out there. And I know that you're really passionate about putting out great free content, which is, you know, everything that I've attended has been really excellent. So as you obviously, now we're not at each other's throats, you and Kevin.
Obviously.
You're getting married, and you bought this island house. Tell us how your business, because what year was it Alpha Femme you decided to form that? Because you were coaching before that, before you formed the brand. How did you move forward from that?
So at first I was the invisible coach because I was sleeping in my car. I really didn't want anybody to know who I was. The thing was, my brand was the invisible coach. And it was kind of like, you know, the movie Hitch with Will Smith, where he like coaches invisibly and nobody knows who he is. That was kind of the energy of my business. So people didn't know my name. They didn't know, like, I knew they knew I was Melanie, but they didn't know like my last name, or I didn't have a social media profile that they could know about or anything like that. It was just, they would pay through PayPal and I would call them from an unknown number. And that was it. Like, I really kept myself very distant, and it was this underground thing. And then eventually what happened is I met these two women, these two young girls in person. And I started telling them about what I did, and never thinking in a million years they would hire me. I was just talking to them about what my underground business was. And they were so obsessed with it, and they wanted to hire me as their life coaches. And that was like a huge step. And I also met one of my clients. I had been coaching her for a couple of years at this point, and I met her at a personal development thing. She didn't know I was 26 at the time, been a year. Like, she didn't know anything. I was so afraid that she'd meet me and not take me seriously anymore. So there was all that fear. So in 2015, after I'd started meeting some of my clients, I started using social media, but not to market or anything like that, just to be on social media, to connect with my clients. But I still marketed to people I met in person. I never in a million years thought I could just find people on the internet. That never, ever crossed my mind. So in 2017, I created the Alpha Femme brand. So the Invisible Coach was in 2013. I did all the things underground, invisible coach, then everything in person, just connected to my clients on social media, but no social media presence. 2017, I created the Alpha Femme brand. I had tried in early 2017 with another brand called the Boss Vibe. It didn't really stick. And then the summer was Alpha Femme. And then in 2018, 14 minutes before midnight, we hit our first $1 million year. And that was the most shocking moment of my life. I just could not believe it. But the crazy thing is, as soon as midnight struck, I used to receive all my money in PayPal. So I could see the numbers inching up for the year. And then all of a sudden it was like 2019. And then for the year balance of 2019, $0. Like I had to start everything all over again for the year. And it was like, what if I never do it again? Like I didn't know if I'd ever do it again. But 2019 was a $2.5 million year. And 2020 was like 9 million. And then now in the last 12 months, we've made over $11 million. So it's been wild.
Really wild. I mean, it's so crazy. And I'm actually like sitting here in a state of shock because you really have, you've really impressed me on social media in the fact that one of the things that I was holding on, you did these little stories, and one of the stories that you told was the monkey in the coconut with the banana, yes. Right? So it's like a little monkey that's stuck his hand in a coconut and he's holding a banana. He doesn't want to let go of the banana, but he's stuck because he can't pull the banana out of the coconut. I know I'm not doing this whole story a big service, but what I realized was I was like that with Facebook ads. So the end of 2020, I had got into all of 2019. I was preparing my business to take it to 7 figures. All of 2020, same story, preparing my business to take it to 2020. I literally got in my mind, you have to do Facebook ads. The only problem is Joanna actually hates Facebook ads. She doesn't like them at all. So no problem. I'll take every course going and not actually do the courses, hoping that I can learn by osmosis. But then when I discover my problem, I'm a fixer. So I'm like, I will fix this. I will hire it out to someone else. Hired it out to someone else. Didn't really like that either. And so I come across Melanie at the end of 2020 and just casual as she says, well, we tried that Facebook ads thing. It wasn't really our jam. And I'm like, what? This woman is like doing extraordinary things. And I realized in that moment, because I specialized in organic reach, and I realized in that moment, like, just Joanna, go with what works. Go with what works. Organic reach has worked for you. And so you have this incredible social media presence, and it is, trust me, like if you want major Instagram envy, go check out Melanie because it is so beautiful. It's so gorgeous. It will give you so much pleasure just to even just look at her photos because it's so beautifully curated, and you can see your passion for beauty in your photographs. And but I'm really impressed that you weren't even on. I'm like in shock at the moment that you weren't really even on social media until like proper, like maybe 2016, 2017, when you start going, yeah, well, maybe. So that's impressive what you've built and what you've grown in how you've grown your brand. So as you're growing now, how have you felt like shifting goals? Because obviously you said you were shocked when you hit 1 million. So how has your goals changed? Do you feel like goals are super important, or do you feel like, do you feel that they're important to you?
So my first big goal that I tried to hit in my life was the 10K a month goal.
Okay.
And I, for the life of me, could not hit that goal for years and years and years. I could hit 6 figures in a year, but I could not make 10K a month. It was like 8,400, 8,600, 8,700, 9,100. I could not do the 10K thing, but I was doing it in the masculine energy goal setting goals, trying to hit a 10K a month, trying to hit a 10K a month, trying to hit a 10K a month. So eventually when I started to really understand feminine energy and trust, I realized that I did not trust my business at all. And I was doing everything in fight or flight mode. And a lot of my needing to make that money was to prove something. That I was good enough, because I was seeing that everywhere, make 10Ks, 10K, 10K. It was like the marketing thing that I was an energetic match for. I felt like I was seeing it everywhere, and I was just not enough for that 10K. So when I let go of that, my business actually started to jump 16K, 20K, 30K. All of a sudden my business started to jump. And I got really cozy in that like 20, 30K range, and things weren't really moving. So the year of 2018, I'd been having 20K months, 20, 30K months now for a couple of years, which I thought was outstanding. To be very honest, like I didn't even know people who made six figures in their lives. So now I'm making this much money. It's like, I'm amazing. I haven't even graduated high school. I'm mind blown by this. This makes no sense. Like $20,000, $30,000. This is insane. This is insane. This is insane. This is insane. But we're traveling and we're spending it all. We're reinvesting it. We're traveling. None of it is like full blown. It's not being built up in a bank account. I don't understand net worth. I don't even understand business. I understand money at this point. So what happened is that I still felt really embarrassed about money. I felt like I couldn't talk about it because I wasn't really mastering keeping it. I just was making it like it was magic.
Okay.
So in the year of 2018, January was like a $20,000 month, February, 20,000, March, 30, April, 20, 30, 40. So it's going like this until about June. And in June, I had a $50,000 month, and it felt so expensive to have a $50,000 month. It was my biggest month ever. And I was speaking to my mom in the pool, and I was like, could you imagine if I flew all of our British family, my mom's sister, all the kids? What if I flew them out for a Christmas one year and we rented the big log cabin that we rented for my birthday that one year? Like, imagine if I rented the log cabins and we had this magical Christmas and we're in the pool and we're dreaming and we're thinking, what if, imagine. And a few days later, I had a client tell me, she's like, I'm buying this money program from this coach. And this is a coach that had defaulted on payments with me. And I knew was out of alignment with money, like beyond out of alignment. Like I at least was not ever defaulting on anything. I just wasn't rich in the way that I thought I needed to be in order to talk about money. So when she said that, I don't know what came out of my mouth. I just went, oh, I have a money program coming in 2 weeks. And I was like, I don't have a money program coming in 2 weeks. Why the heck did I say that? So when I hung up the phone, I was like, Kevin, I just did the dumbest thing in the world. Like, I don't talk about my money at all. I've just said I've got a money program coming. I was supposed to go on holiday. I don't have a money program coming. And he's like, look, don't think about it. We're going on holiday. You just said that. It's one client. In the worst case, you just tell her that you're moving it. Like, it's fine. He coaches me through it. And I'm like, oh my God. So we go on this trip. And I've disconnected. I've told all my clients I'm taking a week off. And in the middle of the night, I wake up with this like channeling feeling. So whenever I'm channeling something like that, it actually makes me feel physically sick. I have this like I know some people enjoy the feeling of a deja vu. I hate it. It makes me feel like it's like a full body anxiety, and I feel like I'm going to vomit. So I woke up in the middle of the night feeling like that, and I knew something was going to come through. So I woke Kevin up and I had him write it out for me. And I channeled 3 hours of money conversation. And the next night I woke up in the middle of the night and channeled another 3 hours of money conversation. And the next night I woke up in the middle of the night and channeled another 3 hours of money conversation. And the next night I woke up in the middle of the night and channeled another 3 hours of a money conversation. And it was genius, the things. And I was reading through it and I was like, if I do this, I'm going to be so rich. If I understand this, if I really embody this, this is insane what this is. Like, this is incredible. What am I going to call it? And then the name came through, exponential wealth. That's what we're going to call it. Exponential wealth. I did a Zoom webinar. I had a 48-hour buying window. I had 33 spots. I sold all 33 spots. And then I sold a mastermind on the back end using all the principles that I had embodied and taught. And I had $150,000 month, just like that.
Boom.
And I kept embodying these processes over and over again. And I just kept having 6-figure months nonstop, 6 figures, 6 figures, 6 figures, 6 figures, 6 figures. And I just could not believe it. And this feeling, this concept started coming through me of like, what I realized is I wasn't setting goals anymore because I didn't even believe I could grow from that. It was so big. It was just gratitude, just gratitude, just gratitude. But I had this thought that was like evolution and growth over a lifetime. You've got to learn to walk with gratitude and evolution. You've got to learn to walk with both. If you're only grateful for what you have and there's no evolution, you're going to stay here. And this is amazing, but you're capable of more. So it was understanding this walk of gratitude and desire at the same time. Like, how do you feel so epically grateful for what you have and also so excited by desire without it turning into lack, or whether it turning into running after something and never being grateful. So it was mastering that art of one foot in desire, one foot in gratitude, one foot in desire. And that march, that walk started to increase my numbers quite shockingly. And what it was for me is I stopped setting goals in the masculine energy, since they never worked for me. And what it was instead was this evolution and growth over a lifetime. And this is where pineapple season is coming also came through for me. And it was like every single person I meet in my life is a person that's going to manifest into a relationship now or later. I give my heart, all of my heart, and I trust in people's power and their evolution on their timing. Pineapple season is coming. And it was just this beautiful like mantra, this beautiful practice, evolution and growth over a lifetime, trusting in people's timing and alignment, and things slowly started to grow. But what really changed things and what skyrocketed the business is when COVID hit. So I spoke to you a little earlier about, I had been to see a spiritual woman that I spent $100 for that session, the last $100 I had. And when I walked out of there, I was so mad and so disappointed by what I got from her. I literally ripped up her business card and threw it on the floor. I was so mad that I felt I had gotten nothing from the session when I walked out of it, because it sounded like the most ridiculous things I'd ever heard in my life. I didn't believe really in spirituality at that point. She was channeling voices and she was telling me things I didn't believe in any of it. And one of the things she said to me that really sent me over the edge, I wanted to know from this woman, am I going to survive this season in my life, or am I going to die in my car? Do I get back with the ex-boyfriend or do I not? Do I find another job? Like, that's where I'm at in my life. And she tells me, you're going to change the world where the mountain meets the ocean. This is her message for me. I'm sleeping in my car. I'm like, this is a load of bollocks. Like, this is the most ridiculous. I'm like, I'm going to change the world. I can't even pay my Visa bill. I'm sleeping in my car. How do I change the world? And she was like, I can't tell you that. But where the mountain meets the ocean, where? And she was like, you'll know. I'm going to know. I can't travel anywhere. Where do I go? Where the mountain meets the ocean? How does it happen? And she says, you'll be there when it happens. And I just left that meeting being like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But when COVID hit, my sister, Kevin, and I were on the big island of Hawaii. And when COVID really happened in Hawaii, they shut everything down. We could not leave the country. All the hotels were closed. Everything was closed. And we were staying in this like multi-million-dollar house. It was costing $3,500 a night to be in this place. And then they shut everything down. So we can't go anywhere. And $3,500 American a night is so much to stay there. So I used Alpha Communication. I navigated a price that we could stretchingly afford. I was terrified of it. It was like $1,500 a night American to stay in this house. And we ended up stuck there for 2.5 months. We could not leave the country. But we're stuck on a cliff where the mountain meets the ocean. And I said, why don't I make this a self-fulfilling prophecy? Why don't I make it real? I can. And I got Kevin and Shannon so hyped with the vision. I was like, look, we're going to stay here every day, but we're going to change the world here. And the company went from like $200,000-$300,000 months to $500,000 months to $750,000 months to $1 million months. December was a $1.7 million month. The company has exploded. And what happened is I took ownership of a prophecy that I could have said was garbage for the rest of my life. But I said, what if I made it true? And we took it on like a life mission to fulfill on that prophecy. And it changed my business. It created the for me, for you, for us thing I often talk about, for me, for you, for us, where the mountain meets the ocean. I took it on. I fulfilled the prophecy. And my life has been so elevated since that time. And that would be right around now, last year. So it's been about a year now. The business has taken on a whole other depth.
I coach a lot actually on being a self-fulfilling prophecy, because I was that psychic lady. So as I'm hearing that story from you, I'm like, oh, you came there for your 3-dimensional self, and she wanted to code you for your 5th-dimensional self.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, do I get out of the car?
Yeah, I'm so
Can you give me a date? When do I have a hot meal again? Something tangible.
Exactly. And you wanted something real, and she's operating in the 5th dimension and is like seeing the vision of So I'm kind of doing like busman holiday laugh here, like working holiday, because I know that look on the client's face when they're like, are you actually shitting me right now? But I also know the phone call that comes like 12 months later and they're like, OMG, how did you know? So,
Oh, I wish I could call that woman and tell her, but I ripped her card up and I threw it away. And plus, when I went there, that was the other part that made it so much worse. She was moving and she got me into her house. She was moving. There were boxes everywhere. And she was like, we're going to have to do the session in my bedroom. I was sitting on her bed. She was sitting on a chair. I was like, wait, I'm going to get killed in this house. Like, I don't even know. Like, this is the creepiest thing I've ever seen. She was channeling in tongues. I
oh
walked
my
out of
God.
there. I was like, I've just been scammed. I ripped the card up. I wish there was a way for me to find that woman, because I would definitely share with her that she was right and to keep doing what she does.
Yeah, there will be, I mean, put it out there, just ask spirit for it and it'll bring it to you. It's just,
Mm.
yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. I can see that from both sides, but yeah, but I love that you were willing to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because sometimes that is the will, isn't it? The choice. Do I become this self-fulfilling prophecy, or do I want to be true for myself? And
Mm-hmm.
it is our personal choice. And I think that this is the thing, isn't it, that we, when we hear stories like yours and how extraordinary they are, we like to tell ourselves a lesser story. Yeah, but it's all right for her. Or yeah, but she, she had psychic ladies that gave her prophecies. Or but she had this guy, and but like, it's always but something, right?
Yeah,
Instead of, well, what if it was just that that person made a deep personal choice to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that was it, right? Like, that was the thing. Instead of the fancy outer stuff, it was this deep inner movement that happened, that shifted everything, and the universe aligned because they chose it. Like, one of the things I like to say is, because I chose it. So I will say, when I want to bring goals forward and through, I will say the goal, and then I say, because I choose this, and really to feel the embodiment of it. So as I was telling people about my little monkey coconut story about the ads, hearing you not using ads, doing these extraordinary years, I let go and went from 20 to 30K months to, my January was $175,000. That's what happens
that's
when you let go of the
amazing.
banana.
Joanna, that is so amazing. That is so amazing.
So it's really, really like totally cray. And I'm like, at that point, my brain went out to lunch. It was like, see you later. I'm out to lunch now. I'm like, I'm not even taking messages anymore. Like, I'm just going out to lunch, because I was just like, and I was kind of slightly in shock, because I was like, oh, but that was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be this slugfest. I was going to have to work super hard. And actually, I had like a super good time all of January. In fact, this whole year I've had a super good time. By the time I got, I think, to the 3rd of February, we had made our entire 2020 sales by the 3rd of February
Wow.
of 2020.
That is
So
incredible.
it is just incredible. And I think, for me, just seeing your story, just, and hearing what you share on social media and things like that, I needed to hear that. Like, I needed to hear another human being that was like, just, and you were so casual in that live stream. I wish I'd kept the live stream, but it was like, yeah, we tried that once, and it's not really for us. And then you also said something about, like, it brought an unaligned person in. And that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly how I had felt about the ads. That was what was frustrating me, was I was getting quite a nice person in, but then I was getting this like, who are you person? Like, that just wasn't getting me, I suppose, in a way.
I
Um,
get it.
and it was hard, and I was like, and then of course the dread comes in of, if you're going to expand this way, does that mean you're gonna have to deal with more of that? Right? And I wasn't, and then I think we women do this funny thing. I call it one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake.
Mm-hmm.
we want the success, but when the gnarly energy comes in, like those unaligned people that weren't really aligned with my brand and my ethos and everything, it started to make me want to put my foot on the brake a little bit, right? And so I'm kind of like driving the car with one foot, like, and then I'm not going as fast as I want. But at the same time, I don't want it to go faster, because if it goes faster, does that mean I have to deal with more stuff that I don't like to deal with? So yeah, so it was like, you can do it organic.
Yeah.
And all I needed to hear was that in December. Oh, that was the December as well.
Yeah. I remember when you posted that in AFE, I was like, what? That's it. When you were like, I want you to come and speak on my podcast. I am going to come and speak on your freaking podcast, lady. I cannot wait for us to have a conversation about how everything transpired for you. Like, that was a really cool moment. I still remember seeing that and being like, is that a typo? Is this what? I was so excited for you.
It was so exciting. It was just like, yeah, it was just amazing. It was so exciting. And I think it's, sometimes we just need someone to model that it's okay just to be us.
Yeah.
And I think
that makes me happy.
Because that's what it's about, isn't it? We just need someone else to say, you know what, it's okay, love, if you don't like Facebook ads, you don't need to do them. But if you like Facebook ads, you fill your boots and you do you, but sometimes we just need someone who's walked the path before us to show that it's actually possible. Because at that point in time, I had convinced myself, I was like that, I was going to get that banana. I was going to get that banana out that coconut, and there was nothing. And I think in that masterclass that you taught with the animal sort of archetypes, one of the things that really struck me in that masterclass as well was a little story about a flea as well, which was and when fleas get locked in jars, they try to get out, but then very soon they realize they can't jump very high, so they never jump that high again. And I realized that with my biggest fear in my business was, because I built 4 6-figure businesses between the age of 23 and 26, and then I worked in them all, then hit a ginormous burnout. So I had hit the lid hard. And I realized when I heard that story from you, again, I realized, OMG, I've been scared to leap. And I started to doubt that there was even a lid on the jar. I started to doubt that there was even a lid on the jar. I was like, I told myself that there's a lid on this jar, but I actually don't even think it's there. I think the lid is in my head. I don't think the lid is on the jar. And, I'm never going to I might burn out again, but I'm never going to know if I never try. And, it was so, for me, so that story hit me hard. Like, there was some big cries. Journaling that and just journaling through that and realizing, what, if you never try, how are you going to know? And and yes, I had history, and yes, I had beef with that history, because that was all me that caused my burnout before. I didn't listen to any of the signs. My body literally was like a neon freaking sign that I was headed for this huge burnout. And yeah, I just ignored every step. And that was all on me. And yet, but it was also all on me that I was scared that I was going to hit the lid again. And I thought, but you know what? I'm walking with 2 new versions of Joanna, experience and wisdom. I didn't have that the first time around. And I realized it comes down to what you said today. You talked about self-trust. Trusting yourself, trusting your business is what you said earlier about really trusting your business. And I thought, I just need to really trust myself that I can do this. And then things just went a little bit bananas.
I love it. I love it.
So I love it. So what is your plans at the moment? Because you didn't stop at just buying 1 house last year. You bought 2, because I can see behind you, you've got your gorgeous log cabin. So you bought the cabin that you had the big family Christmas at.
So when the COVID hit and we finally did make it back to Canada, because my brother was expecting his first child and we were going to miss the birth, and it was just not possible to do that. Plus my sister has a compromised autoimmune system. So we ended up chartering a private jet back from Hawaii to Montreal, But when we landed here, there was nowhere for us to stay. We couldn't live with my parents because they were over the age of 50. The law was you can't have been traveling and then go stay with people 50 and above. Airbnbs were closed, hotels were closed. So we literally had nowhere to go. Kevin and I had been digital nomads for that many years. We didn't have a home base, and my sister still lived at home with my parents. So we had no place to go. So I had to call one of our old Airbnb people that we'd become friends with and ask them if we could pay them under the table to stay in this house that was vacant at this point, and they let us stay there. And but they were moving in, or somebody in their family was moving in a couple of months in. So we only had it for a few months, then we had to leave with nowhere to go. And this log cabin, basically the story with this is my family rented it in 2017 for my birthday, the year Alpha Femme was born. They said, we wanted to give you something at the image of Alpha Femme. And I felt so seen. Like I could really feel my family had seen me change when they did that for me, because everyone chipped in for us to have a family party at this house. And I rented it the year later for Christmas. And then I had all my family here in 2019. And I did do the thing I said to my mom, what if we do it? We actually did it. We flew the entire family in. I paid for everything for everybody to take all the time off, rented 2 log cabins, the one, and then the other one. We spent all our time in this one, and we hadn't been together in 20 years for Christmas. And it was just the most incredible thing. And then in the summertime, so we were supposed to move into this log cabin in November. But now we had nowhere to go. And they weren't allowed to rent it. But because we already had a rental, we asked if we could extend it, and they were able to finagle it. So we were able to move in here in June. Thinking we'd just stay here until Christmas. But we just had this feeling like, what if we bought a place? What if we looked for a place, and we'd always rent this one for Christmas, but we're not going to live here. Let's find a place. So when we found so what we did was we moved in here in the summer, and it didn't feel right because we'd only ever been here in the winter. And the Christmas vibe is all twinkling lights and all kinds of things. And when I moved in here, I felt sad. I was like, this is not our magical cabin. This looks sad. We need to spice it up. So we went and bought plants, and I spruced this place up. The next thing I knew, it started to feel like home real fast. And when this place started to feel like home, obviously we manifested the island house, and it's just this 5-acre island in the middle of the river with this gorgeous house, all made of quartz stone and glass. And it looks over the forest and the river, and there's fox and deer on the land. Like it's my dream. So we bought that land.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a phone call though. We bought that land, and we bought the house, and that was fantastic. But then I just felt like I'd kind of fallen in love with this place now, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So we ended up buying both. And the idea is that we will Airbnb this one day, so we can always have it for Christmas. But right now because we're so used to traveling, it actually feels weird to just be in one place all the time. So we love packing our suitcase and going to the other house and packing our suitcase and going back. So we're still traveling, even though there's a curfew. We've got to be home by 8, and I love to go anywhere, but we travel between houses. So the plan now is just this house eventually will be a next level Airbnb. The other house will be our house, but we will be traveling more. And it's just evolution and growth over a lifetime. There is no big goal. I'm not pressuring myself to hit a goal. I'm just enjoying the growth. I know the big thing is continuing to grow and pave the way. That's what matters to me. So I'm giving my best and trusting that will result in growth, because that's the vision. But all in feminine energy, all in magic, all in trust and faith.
I love that. We're coming to the end of our beautiful hour together, and I want to just ask you one thing. I want to ask you, if you could go back to that sleeping in the car Melanie, what would one piece of advice, or some advice, even a group of advice that you would give her? What would you say to that version of yourself now that where you are right now?
The one thing, and I've thought about this because people have asked me this, and I say this to my clients because I feel like that is the one thing that maybe would have made a difference for me. And if you can hear it the way I would have said it to myself, if you can hear it the way I would have said it, maybe it can do something for you today. But this is all I would have said. You're okay. You're going to be okay.
I love that. Yeah. And it's just really understanding the power of those words. I use in my coaching business, I use, say, have you never not been okay? And people go, did you make it through 100% of your days?
Yeah.
Well, that means you've got 100% track record for getting through life. you know,
Mm.
and there we are telling this lesser story, but actually we're total badasses to have got through 100% of our life. Melanie, I have absolutely loved every minute of this. Please tell people where they can find you on the interwebs, and we'll link it all in the show notes and everything so that they can find you. But how can they get a hold of a little bit of Melanie in their lives?
So right now it's so simple. If you follow me on Instagram at Alpha Femme, and if you're my friend on Facebook, I also have a Facebook group, Melanie. So Melanie Ann Layer on Facebook, and then my free group is Alpha Femme. If you follow me there, you'll know everything there is to know. I run my business real simple, still no website. Everything's just like I'm talking about what's going on. You won't miss a thing.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I've really appreciated this chat, and I really loved having a chat with you and just seeing your journey and sharing your journey with everyone. So thanks very much.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.